All right, Greg Ellis, thank you for being on the podcast, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So you own ELLIS Kentucky, which is a float tank and wellness center. I have never done a float before, and a lot of people that I'm related to or friends with have never done a float either, but I know that it's supposed to be something wild. So I guess I just want to hand it off to you and just tell me a little bit about your business first.
Yeah, for sure. Not to jump off the bat with a couple contradictions to what you were saying, but just some notes is that it's actually co-owned. So Chelsea Powers, my girlfriend, is also the co-owner of Weightless Float Center. It's also, we call it Weightless Float Center, Weightless KY, or Weightless Sky, as some people call it, on our Instagram as it looks. Sometimes I think it's a little bit misleading, but if you Google us or check us out anywhere, you'll see it's Weightless Float Center, or just Weightless, or just Google Weightless. Floating Louisville. So thanks so much for having me. Floating. The other thing I was going to say is that you said it's pretty wild. And although it is pretty wild, we always tell people not really to have expectations going into the float, because there are so many different ways you can float, you know, and how many, like, the different experiences that people have while floating. But just to break it down for those listening who aren't familiar with what it is, floating is a type of water therapy or flotation therapy. So just imagine like the perfect bath. So it's 10 feet long, 4 feet wide, and there's 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt dissolved into the water. So it creates a density that's more than that of the Dead Sea. So you physically just float on the surface.
Like the Dead Sea. Or
more salty
like
than the Dead Sea, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So when you're floating, not only do you not feel gravity, but the water is the same temperature as your body. So you don't feel the water.
How much salt is in your tank?
1,000 pounds. Well, it's actually just over 900, but we say 1,000 because it's just an easier number for people to quantify. So it's about 5 pounds per gallon of water. So when you're floating, the salt enables you to float effortlessly on the surface. The water is the same temperature as your skin, so you don't feel it. And if you choose to, and this is where people kind of freak out a little bit in the sense that they're like, well, I don't want to do that. And that's why if you choose to, you can close the lid and turn off the light. It's not scary at all, I promise. But people, the concept of it sounds a little scary. So when you're floating effortlessly, and you don't feel the water, and you don't hear anything, and you don't see anything, effectively your mind is isolated from any external sensory input, so it just leaves you in the state of nothingness, where you get all the benefits of the Epsom salts, detoxing your muscles, reducing inflammation, helps with chronic pain, swelling. Having no gravity on your body lets your spine realign, activates that parasympathetic nervous system. And then really, when you don't have any, if you just think about right now, like, it's quiet in here, but if you listen, you can hear a lot. Just the lights, there's a lava lamp, the glare over here, there's cars driving by, you can hear the trucks and the different gears, and if you really listen hard enough, you could hear the house settling, or the office or the place that we're in right now settling. So our brain is taking in billions of signals per second, and when you get in the float tank, it's almost like closing every app on your brain, not hearing anything, seeing anything, feeling anything, just having no gravity on your body. And it's just like, because your brain doesn't ever get that sensation, it's always on guard, even when you're asleep. Like the heat turns on, or a car drives by, or your partner rolls over in bed, or the cat gets on the bed, like there's so many things that pull us, direct our attention. And when you get in the float tank, it's like a cocoon of nothingness. It's like a controlled isolation.
So when I'm gonna do a float. So when I do a float,
you gotta come in for sure.
And you said earlier not to kind of have any expectations. I wanted to ask you, like, what are the best things that I can do to prepare myself leading up to it, just to have the experience?
That's a great question. So first of all, just when you book online or over the phone, you'll get a confirmation email, and that confirmation email has not only your appointment but also some frequently asked questions, what to expect, a little pre-float checklist. So it kind of gives you some recommendations of things to do and not to do before your float, and I can detail those. But one of the things is that there's so many different ways people do float, right? Like sometimes I like coming straight from the gym. Like literally, like right from the gym, you leave the gym and you go right into the float tank. And that is really awesome. Like if you're, thinking about it's going to be one of those days where in the next few days you'll be dreading that step down or trying to get in and out of your car because your legs are hurting, or your, just upper body or something like that. You get in the float tank, you just get that lactic acid drain, because really, like, the lactic acid doesn't build up in your muscles and stay there for too long, but if you can get that and just kind of flow right into the tank, you really feel the benefits of that physical recovery. However, when the Ironman was in town, Colin Cook won second place, and he floated at weightless before the Ironman, which I thought was interesting. So some people float right before they do a really intense sports event. Some people float after they give their body a once over. So you can do that. And then too, like, say if you are working really hard, like you've been working doubles or something like that, putting in that overtime, and then you have something unexpected happen, and then you have to drive really far, and then whatever, you've just been running yourself ragged, like, you get in the float tank and it's just the best sleep you've ever had. I jokingly say check out or check in, because sometimes like I float in the morning for like meditation, so really, depending on what you're doing, there's so many different ways you can go about floating. It depends on which, like, we tell people to avoid caffeine before floating, because for the most part you don't really want to have your mind racing while you're in the tank. However, for me, like, if I'm going over a bunch of stuff that we have to do for whether it's the space or the cannabis company that we have, or just kind of life in general, those types of things, like, sometimes it's nice to just think. Like, I like a quiet space to just kind of ponder. And when I get in the tank, like, even after having a cup of green tea or a cup of coffee, like, it's maybe not for everybody, but it's really nice to kind of just like let your gears start spinning in the tank. And like if you like to design or think or just kind of hash out ideas, like it can be really enjoyable for that. So
do you experience